adjustment. I'll introduce my colleagues to you. To my far left is Richard Johnson, and Chuck Hart, Administrative Assistant Susan Ayer. To my far right, Peter Coughlin. To my immediate right is Larry Greenbaum, who's our Vice Chair, and I'm Ellie Alessio, your Chair. I'll take a motion on the minutes from the last meeting. Excuse me? I'll do my best. I know the acoustics in here are terrible, so the next time you see a Warren article that says we won $30,000 for acoustics, there's a reason for that. So we're hoping that the Santa Claus Fund from the federal government will help us do that this coming year. ARPA funds, COVID, all that stuff is might help us sooner than later, which is good. But anyways, in the meantime, I'll project a little bit better later, no problem. Okay, a motion for the minutes, please.
I'll move that we accept the minutes as written.
Okay, second. Any errors or omissions, corrections?
Did I have a name I was missing, which I added back in. Tim told me the last name that I was missing. But
Oh, okay, okay.
That was it.
Okay, all right, all in favor of the minutes as printed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, our first hearing tonight is with Matthew Francis from 10 Independence Ave, Derry, New Hampshire, regarding 9 Main Street, Kingston, tax map R21, lot 10. This is a public hearing whereby the applicant seeks a variance of the terms of Article 104, Section 104.4 of the Town of Kingston zoning ordinance, and asks that terms be waived to allow permitted uses of the property to include a garage door company and self-storage units, which are now not permitted. Is Mr. Francis here? Would you like to come forward? And anyone else that you want to work with you to do your presentation? Okay, and you are Mr. Matthew Francis, and this young lady is?
Allison Milioto. Last name is M-I-L-I-O-T-O. First name is Allison with 1 L.
Okay, thank you. The way we proceed is you will tell us why you should be granted this variance. Members of the board will ask some questions. We'll open it up to the public for them to ask their questions and express their opinions, and then the board will deliberate and go from there. Okay, so why don't you tell us why you think we should grant you this variance?
Basically, it's our first big purchase, commercial property. We're trying to move from Derry somewhere else to get it out of my house. We have 4 trucks, 4 employees, just trying to grow our business, give us a little more space, and kind of hit a new market. Try to come this way as opposed to going Nashua and into Mass. And honestly, we've been looking for a property for a while, and they're pretty few and far between, and very expensive. So this was the only one that we were able to find that kind of fit our needs. And that's what we were looking at. It had a lot of space as far as those 22 bays, and we were just trying to offset some of the cost, sort of. So we were thinking we could put some doors on it, kind of spruce up the property a little bit, and maybe utilize it for storage and trailers or whatnot that we're not going to be able to use for any reason at this time. The building's plenty big for us now, but there is a lot more to use than we need, so we thought that would be the best option for it as opposed to leaving it empty to possibly bring in some income and help us pay for it.
Do you have any drawings of what you propose to do with it? I don't mean formal.
No, so the exterior, the only thing I was planning to do is maybe put doors on those carports, just put doors and paint it. So that was
On the
really,
22 units that were where the buses were stored?
oh yeah, I guess they would park the buses in them.
Yeah.
They're just open bays currently,
I know.
and I can put doors on them pretty easily, and then just, keep the weather out, and people can use them for storage or whatnot. And we'll probably keep some doors and some of our trucks in there as well, just so we don't have to clean them off every year. So that would help for sure.
And the cement block building would be
The prime,
where you make the
Spot,
doors.
yeah.
So that's the main reason. The door company is the main reason for being.
the door company, yeah, is the main thing now, is just secondary,
Yeah,
but
no, it makes sense.
Yeah, so we've had he's had the door business for 13 years, and up until now it's been operated out of our home. We have a good sized garage on property and it's been sufficient. But in the last 2 years, we've definitely outgrown that space. With supply chain issues we're having to keep a lot more inventory in stock of the doors in order to meet our clients' demands. And we don't have room to operate out of our home anymore. So really the primary purpose of the purchase is the garage door business in the main building, which is the 3-bay garage facility.
You'll be commuting from the Derry area to come here, and then you're not planning to move onto the property, correct?
No.
Yeah, that building's definitely not livable. Yeah, no, it's gonna be 100% owner occupied for business purpose only.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with the trailer that's out back beyond the sheds?
Wanna buy it?
No, I'm saying,
So we did try to negotiate with the seller to get it removed.
I'm not
My
sure.
realtor, I don't think it's getting moved yet.
I don't know if that's going, and there's also a pop-up tent with a boat in it. So he also said that, the other realtor said that was gonna go, but I'm not 100% sure what the plan is. I don't really, we got into it last time we looked at it, and it's all set up for storage inside of it, but I don't really see what I could use it for currently. I really don't, I think it's an eyesore, but I
It's
don't
got
know,
some-
probably get it yanked out of there, to be honest with you. I just have to see, because it's not something that we can move, so I just have to see how much it would cost me to get rid of it. Because it looks like the tires are all rotted and everything on it too, so it might be more of a flatbed
Problem.
situation.
yeah.
But yeah, you guys can have it if anybody wants it.
Excuse me?
If anybody wants it, they know of, they can have it.
I have a
Sure, go ahead.
question for you, actually. Permitted uses for the property to include a garage door company and self-storage units, which are now not permitted. Is the garage door company and the self-storage not permitted, or is it the
Correct.
self-storage?
And that's right in the, yes, in the variance, in the regulations. Ordinance, I should say. You got it there, Peter?
Yeah, it's,
They're not, neither one is listed.
it's, neither one is listed as permitted use, there's no prohibited uses listed.
Okay, I thought-
It's not permitted nor prohibited.
Okay, that's, I didn't know if
So-
we were going from one to the other or both.
No, they both need to be approved. If they're gonna use it for both, they both have to be approved.
Right.
Because it's not prohibited. Go ahead.
In that shed building, is there electricity out there now?
There is power in there. I think there was 3 outlets that I found. So there
Is
is
it
power.
sufficient to electrify the whole building?
There is lights in them too, so there's a light in every bay
okay.
currently. So it's almost like it was set up perfect for it. It just doesn't have any doors on it.
Yeah, but you'd still have to go through permitting through the planning board and electrical inspector. There's a wire going from the shed into the trailer, by the way.
Oh, I did see that, yeah. But so it's all, I think it looks like it's all legit going from the building underground into the carport. But yeah, it looks like he hacked the carport to the trailer.
It's hard to say because it's been there for so long and they might have, constructed it before we had some of them.
But there's a panel and all in the carports, like a designated, I think it's on its own circuit or whatnot. So but yeah, I can cap off the trailer, I'm never gonna use that.
Okay. Well,
Especially at
that
night.
would fall within the planning board.
Right.
Um,
This is also in Aquifer Protection District A, and you'd have to get a conditional use permit, but because it's not a prohibited use, it would be, that would be through the planning board. But that does restrict the amount of lot coverage, so that you wouldn't, that and the fact that our rural residential district limits commercial building area to 2,500 square feet means, and obviously that the existing buildings already exceed that, so that they would be grandfathered, but you wouldn't be able to put any additional building on, any buildings on that lot.
Yep, no, I didn't have anything to that.
Yeah, so that, that's the next, you requested for variance for 104.4, which is the permitted uses, and 104.5 gives you the structure and development regulations and the setbacks and all that stuff, so you're fine if you only use the existing buildings, because that's already been determined, but you wouldn't be able to add any new buildings.
Yeah, we understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we were really just looking, because you have the 22 bays there, and obviously it being the first commercial purchase, we were just thinking that we own a garage door company, slap some garage doors on there, and maybe offset some of the cost of the commercial property. Is really, we weren't looking to put up like
Another building.
another public storage facility.
Right, yeah. No buildings, yeah.
Right, I think I'll open it up to the public at this time, and I'll ask that you come to this chair here, state your name and your address. Okay, so who would like to speak first? Mrs. Thompson? Since I know your name for sure.
What's that?
Since I know your name for sure.
Thank you. I'm Robin Thompson, and I live at 13 Main Street, and my property is directly in front of the bay, I call it lean-to building, that has the buses that were stored in there at one time. My understanding is that, yes, there is power in there, yes, there is light in there, there are no walls in there. So when you say putting just a door on it, it doesn't just mean putting a door on it. You actually have to do some construction.
Robin, talk to the board, and then if Mr. Francis wants to respond, or
Gotcha.
they can do that, but
Thank you.
address your questions to us.
Perfect.
Okay.
So my concern is that I'm still not real clear on self-storage, because we see these storage units going up everywhere now on every corner. And because there are 22 bays, I believe is what I
Yes,
heard.
that's
I'm not
correct.
100% sure, but I'll take your word on that. My concern is that the storage units that are going up everywhere have access to them all the way around the building. And if they could access on the back side of that garage, then that means people would be in my backyard or entering into the building on my property line. So that concerns me that, people are gonna be in view of my private space. Let's see. So, and again, I'm not 100% sure on, like, self-storage, is that for the garage company itself, or is self-storage rental? And I think I may have heard the folks saying that they wanted to rent out the space. So I just need to be clear on that as well. And again, that existing building, we heard, can be, no additional buildings can be added on the property, but that existing building, which is large, could potentially be, expanded or
No,
used.
They can't expand the footprint, Mrs. Thompson. They can fix it up and do something with it, but they can't make it bigger.
Okay.
They cannot make it bigger.
So fixing it up and using it is a concern for me, like I said, being able to access it on the back side of it as well as on the front side of it. If it's storage units and it's open to rentals, then obviously I'm concerned with the amount of additional lighting that would have to go up around to keep it secure, because then again, it's lighting into my property as well. The stars are beautiful, and right now I enjoy that in the backyard. Let's see, and I guess a big concern I have is that the access from 125 almost seems impossible if it's rental units that they're going to put up. The access from 111 would almost seem impossible, so then now coming down Main Street and adding additional traffic in that residential neighborhood just seems to be concerning to me. We already have the town garage traffic, we already have the police station traffic, we have the trucking company at the end. It's starting to become more and more no longer a residential area. So I
Just there were buses there coming in
there
and
were
out.
buses coming in, exactly,
So,
yeah.
okay.
But the buses were for the employees, now we're looking at, you know, people who are renting space coming in and out. So just some concerns, and obviously, I know we'll, I think one of the questions you did answer for me was that the buildings can't be expanded, so, you know, I think there's 5 acres there, so that would be a concern that more storage units would go up, so that's a big one for me. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Excuse me, may I ask you,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
how far from your property line is this structure?
It is probably 20 feet,
Oh,
So
very
that-
close.
So, yeah, well,
20
that's,
feet.
that's within the regulations.
Yes.
20 feet
Sure.
is
Well, it's
regulations.
actually 50 feet for commercial versus residential use.
Excuse me, I can hear you over here, sorry.
I'm not good with the exact, but I know that when the trees are full, there's a barricade, but when they're not, I can see right through.
Correct. Like right now, you can see through to the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it says 50.4 from the edge of the single storage, vehicle storage shed to the property line. I saw that on
Okay.
the building
Yeah.
permit, which
So
would
they're
be
well
legal.
within-
no, I was just, when you said it would be right up to your property, I was trying to figure out if they wanted to put doors on the back so people could walk in, if it would be right at your property. But if it's,
50 feet.
Well, the way that the building is right now, there's a brush from my property line to the back of that building. In order for anybody to enter in on the back side, then obviously all that brush would need to be cleared.
well, if they took 4 feet out from the building, and they'd still leave all the rest, so they don't want to infringe on your property either.
Yeah, it's just the view, again, me being able to see people coming into the storage facility and them being able to see me.
And they may not even have it in the back, we don't know
May
that.
not even have it in the back.
Thank you.
Do we respond or?
You can now, or you can wait till others have spoken, but if you want to respond now, you can.
Yeah, I figure I can, that way if
Sure.
other people have the same concerns. So currently the property line you're talking about is, if this was your property, is here, and the building like we talked about is facing that way. Our intentions is to put doors on the front of it and not to do anything to the outer, if anything, sprucing it up with, you know, better siding or anything like that, but not adding any access points to the
From the
back
back
of
of the
those.
building.
Yeah, we're not looking to double down and make, you know, 21 or 22 into 40. We're looking just to kind of continue to use it as it is, where it's driving in from the front. Definitely can understand your concerns with the lighting. I grew up in Dunbarton, so I love the stars as well. I'm not sure what's there for the property lighting currently, because we've not seen it at night. We've viewed the property during the day. We would want to add security, obviously. If people are paying to rent this space, we want to make sure that their stuff is secure. But it wouldn't, I don't think we would light the back of the building. We're also fortunate that you're across the street from the police department. So I think that that adds a level of protection for our property anyways. But we're not looking to, you know, come in and put in halogen neon lights that you can see from 125.
In the town ordinances determine what type of lighting you can or cannot put in.
Yeah, it already has deflectors on there, on the yellow building, and then it mentioned that he thinks that's probably because of being residential, you can't have the lights going up to the sky.
Right,
Yeah.
that's
Which is
correct.
fine, but yeah,
That's correct.
the front of the building was all it is, it would just be access like I just put roll-up doors or doors that you access from the front, like down the street, the other storage place, but nothing around the back, and I'm not planning on paving it or putting dirt or anything like that, so nobody should be back there
keeping in mind the main building is gonna be for our use for our business, which obviously we have a lot of equipment for our business. We also have stuff we would store outside, so safety for our stuff is also a concern. We'd have a full application process for people that are gonna be renting. It's not gonna be, you know, any Tom, Dick, or Harry.
And it wouldn't be all night, every night. It has a gate, so I planned on putting a motor on the gate just so people can't get in there, period. So I think it would be, come up with a reasonable time, but say 7 to 7 or something like that, so people aren't in there overnight bothering neighbors.
And those hours would be determined again through the planning board when you do your site plan for what you're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
use in the property.
Yeah, I didn't have any plan for 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to speak about this project? Yes, sir, come on down.
Garrison Todd, 17 Main Street, we're in butter. Now, just to get a point of clarification, there's only 22 bays that are going to be
I believe
adjusted for this activity
22 or 23.
storage.
Whatever's there now, it's either 22 or 23, but
Yeah, the building's 240 feet long. So,
That building would be the only thing that would
and
be,
it doesn't have intercondition, so.
Right, so they'd have to do some sort of work to divide that, correct?
Yeah, so they could,
so there's half walls in it now. So I think I can just add some wood or plywood or some metal in between them to individualize them pretty easily.
So as I understand also, there can't be any other structures built on this property because they're at the limit, is that correct?
that is correct. There's a 2,500 square foot limit, and that's already been exceeded.
the buildings that exist are grandfathered in. They cannot expand upon it at this time. It's not to say that down the road they decide to take some out and add some others, they could do that, but they have to come and get permission to do any other changes.
All right. So you can't expand the footprint. So it's, what you wanna do is you wanna put a business existing, you wanna put a business into the building that's there already, which with us we got for maintenance. I just wanna make sure I understand this correctly.
Yeah?
Which is your garage door. And then you wanna take these 22 bays and you wanna make them into essentially self-storage units, is that correct?
And I'm not 100% it's gonna be 22 because I'll probably put our trucks in 2, 3, or 4 of them, and then as I grow, I'll take those over. So it was mostly just to offset because I can't use that space for ourselves. So rather than leaving them empty, figure out a way to make money out of them.
All right, so are you going to put any other kind of lighting there? 'Cause that's
I might put some lights on the face of it, like facing where people would pull in a parking lot, even just for me to be able to see to pull our trucks around. But it would be facing, 125, not backwards, not towards. Are you to the right of the entrance?
We're down towards the corner where the police station is.
Yeah. So everything I would essentially, I would think would be on the face where people would be. Nothing in the back. If you're down by the trailer, I don't even think I put anything on the end down there.
And right now, that property where the trailer is, anything beyond that is non-commercial use. There's already a line on that property.
Right,
There's
that's the
nothing.
limit.
Yeah, so nothing over there can happen.
So you wouldn't go past that limit of commercial use?
We can't.
That's indicated on the plot plan.
Yeah, yeah, there's actually a road. It's across the road.
Yeah, there was a rope when I looked at it, but nobody could explain to me exactly what you could do after that, because it was like another acre or two, but I don't know exactly what it is other than a field.
Well, I speak for myself and some of the other butters. We have concerns about the light pollution. There's plenty of light pollution around. We don't want more than we already have. There's a concern about how much extra traffic is going to be involved with business being there. We already have a pretty dangerous intersection where there have been a number of accidents. We've talked to Chief Briggs about this.
Currently, our door company has 4 employees plus him, so each morning, everyone comes to the shop with their personal vehicles, loads up their work trucks, and then they go out for the day. Currently, we have 4 work trucks. Obviously, one of the reasons we're coming here is to expand our business, be able to hire more people, and grow the business. But the way our business currently functions, everyone comes in the morning, comes back at the end of the day. There is rare occasions they have to come during the day to reload. We'll also be hiring somebody to work in the office, so there would be one person on site during the day.
Oh, I
But
see.
it's not a place where currently customers would be coming in and out of.
So another concern we had is what kind of storage will be allowed at this facility. We are near the aquifer, and any kind of hazardous substances, vehicles. I know that from past history at that property, that even the bus company had violated some ordinance about where they stored their vehicles. These are some of the things that we found out have happened there. There's been a history of violations at that property by various owners.
Unfortunately, we've had a history of violations in a lot of places in town, which is why we're trying to hire a code enforcement officer. We absolutely recognize that issue.
All right, that's good, that's good. What about hours of operation? If it's gonna be, if you're going to have this self-storage, what kind of hours of operation are you looking at? As it currently states, you can only be open from 7 to 5, Monday through Saturday, in the current way it sits, that is written.
I wasn't aware of that, but I was planning on, 7 to 6, 7 to 7, it wasn't 24 hours, but I'm at work sometimes more than 5, 6, 7 o'clock myself, so I'm not sure exactly how that's stated. You said that you guys had to determine the hours, is that?
The planning board would do that, within reason, reasonable hours of operation.
I would think I'd have to have it at least 6 or 7 o'clock just for ourselves.
What about, obviously, are you going to be, you're not a retail operation then, essentially?
Yeah.
So, traffic flows, any concern about that? I mean, I would have a concern being in water and living in that neighborhood would.
I think it's gotta be less than a bus company. Like I said, we only have 5 trucks currently. I'd love to say I'll have 10 in a couple of years, but the way it's going, I'm not sure. Obviously, the storage people up, not 100%. I mean, I'd probably vet them and make sure, and I can tell them this is this, because I know that some places do. Because I do a lot of storage facilities, I know that people camp out there all day. I'm not looking for that, because it's still my property. I'm there working, so I'm gonna make sure it's nice, clean. I already have plans to paint it, try to spruce it up a little bit. It's in good shape, but I like nice stuff, so
I think
it's gonna stay nice.
Yeah, I think one of the things we were thinking about with the storage, obviously being from the trades, is you have like landscapers that plow in the winter, and then they need someplace to put their plows in the summer. So, renting a couple of days to a landscaper that just stores plows during the off season and stuff like that. That's what our initial thoughts were.
I'm not planning on putting tractor trailers and stuff there or anything like that. Like, it's gonna be neat. It's not gonna be a junkyard or anything like that. And I don't think anything, to be honest, would be visible to any of the abutters for the most part, because I believe that building covers everything. From your house, I believe everything is not in view. I'm not sure exactly where you were, but
Well, the biggest concern we have is that we feel we have a pretty nice neighborhood the way it is. And we're concerned about letting a business go in there that could possibly expand, which is gonna, one, it's gonna create a change in the neighborhood from the character that it currently has. For those of us who may want to be selling our homes that are abutters, it definitely will affect our resale value. And as far as the general aesthetics of the neighborhood, I think it's going to have an effect. We don't really know how much this gentleman's business is going to expand. We don't know, what type of things are going to go in these storage units and what's going to be put in there. There's a lot of unanswered questions here.
I think my response to that would be unfortunately, the property that was built, whenever it was built, there is nothing that is allowed in the variance that would go into that building. It's an industrial building in a rural setting. So a doctor's office, not gonna operate in there. It is an industrial garage. One of the things I will say is we're not an auto body. That's a perfect location, perfect structure for an auto body. We're not an auto body. So looking at other businesses that could want that facility, I think we are a great option. We are a very well-kept business. We've operated out of our home. We have a beautiful property in Derry. We take good care of our things. All of our trucks are lettered, they're nice. We're not Chuck with a truck. He's had his business for 11 years. You can look up the website, we have great reviews. All of our business has been referral-based, and we're just really looking to come into a town to be a part of it. Like I said, I grew up in Dunbarton. I know what a small town is. I know what it means to live out, in rural areas, and we're not looking to come in and become, a big, huge commercial property, attracting a lot of attention.
All right.
But I definitely understand the concerns.
Well, our biggest concern is that, according to the ordinances of the town, the properties are zoned for that, a proposed facility of this kind. And we think it violates the basic objectives of the zoning ordinance to allow us. And again, I just think it's going to alter our neighborhood and affect the resale value of our homes.
Thank you for your
All right,
comments.
thank you.
Mrs. Thompson, I want to see if anyone else wants to speak before you have a chance again. And would anyone else like to speak about this proposal? Okay, you have to come over here, please.
Garrison kind of covered everything on.
Please sit down, state your name, state your address.
Susan Javasi, 15 Main Street.
Susan Javasi?
Yes. Garrison kind of covered pretty much most of my concern. The lights are the biggest concern. I spent a lot of money having my backyard fixed, and I don't want lights shining in there now and spoiling the aesthetics of what I've created already. My biggest concern, and I know this is not part of the agenda, but we need a traffic light at that intersection. And I've already checked with some of the other neighbors, and they agree. We've had a lot of accidents there, and adding an extra business there is going to create more traffic and more opportunities for accidents. So I just wanted to put that in there. We want to get a traffic light at that intersection.
Okay.
So, and that was the main thing I wanted to say.
Appreciate that, thank you.
I'd be fine with traffic lights.
Make our lives easier.
I don't think you'd get a disagreement from anyone in Kingston about traffic lights in that intersection, to be honest with you. Okay, anyone else would like to speak? Any final words, Mrs. Thompson? This is it.
Yes, if I could be
The microphones won't pick you up over there.
And it's being taped as well, to be televised on YouTube, so.
I'm on YouTube.
Yes, you
If I could be so kind to ask the folks the name of their business that's already operating.
Oh, yes.
It's Aloha Overhead Doors.
Aloha, L-O-H-A?
Aloha.
Aloha, like in
Aloha.
Hawaii.
Yes, he lived in Hawaii for a couple years.
Nice. Which island?
I was in Maui.
Yes.
Beautiful
Down
place.
in the back of New Hampshire.
Maui to Kingston, New Hampshire.
Is
I
there
don't
a
know.
problem
I
with
don't,
that?
take me back to Lahaina Point. That was one of my favorites. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other comments from the audience before we go back to the board? Okay, any more questions from the board?
Don't put, what would be allowed to be built on that property?
Well, in addition to obviously the residences, professional offices, doctors, dentists, lawyers, and so forth. You know, those are churches, educational establishments, funeral homes, daycare facilities, barbershops, beauty shops. The one that would be closest to what we're dealing with today is general service and repair shops, non-automotive, such as for jewelry, clocks, radios, televisions, computers, electronics, small appliances, bike repair, and services of a similar nature. Now, one could say that, okay, it's not small, but I mean, it's a service. But it's not the kind of service that's listed here. So, antique shop, home occupations, single family or two-family dwellings instead. And of course, agriculture, farms, and farming, which is always covered.
we changed the complexity of that section when the old Battles property beyond the garage became automotive of some sorts. Remember that? I mean, it's,
Yeah,
it
it
used
was
to be
a
a
Jump
liquor,
pad down there.
yes, down the end on the right.
Right, yeah, the old Battles, the distributor. yeah.
They were a liquor distributor for the state of
Right.
New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, and.
And that changed use, and then came before the ZBA to get changed.
Right.
So it started down this road here.
Right, and I don't know the story of how this building was obviously was built after the zoning ordinances went into effect, because it's a fairly new building. But this was supposedly just a bus parking area, so.
Right. But it was an active bus terminal, and it was Safeway Transportation.
Right, oh, yeah,
For
no, I
years.
understand what its purpose
And
was.
it had a lot of traffic, a lot more than what you're talking about for your business there. And your biggest traffic potential for your neighbors would be the storage units, from what I could gather. And if
Right.
you restricted hours and accessibility, didn't have access in the back, that would be another opportunity. The lights is an issue, but there are ordinances that regulate what you're allowed to do with the lights. And then you have the town highway garages there, and you have the
Right.
police, that's all
And
across.
there's something at the other end of the road that you can't get out to 125. I don't know what that business is, but they have
Right.
a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
That's what?
Yeah,
No, what the business
Yeah,
is
there's a
now.
business at the end.
it used to be an access to 125 years ago.
Yeah, and at the end
That's
on the
blocked
right, there's some commercial building.
That's correct, and they came before us years
Yeah.
ago to get a variance to locate
Yeah.
the type of business, and it was automotive related without being an automotive repair.
Yeah,
So,
looks like some type of truck.
I can't remember, there was, when they,
I remember, but I don't remember what the business
It
was.
was-
Right, but it's changed since then, and.
yeah, it's changed since then. They didn't ultimately buy it.
No.
So right now, there's a huge, like, 14 by 14 fluid or oil storage tank in there. That's the first thing I'm getting rid of. So they must have changed oil and left it in there. We're not.
Oh, I'm
doing
sure,
any-
I'm sure there were more
We're not
automotive
doing any-
issues with the bus
Yeah,
transportation,
all of
absolutely.
them. We don't do any vehicle maintenance. I might rotate the tires, but we're not changing oil on our own or any of that, so there'll be none of that stored there.
I've closed it, no. Sorry, you had two shots at it.
I just have one thing that might help him,
You know what,
if he wants to get rid of the trailer, what kind of trailer is it?
we
Okay,
can talk about that
later,
later, that's not
afterwards.
germane to the issue. Leave the
Park for kids.
variance things. You didn't bring it, Susan?
I'm sorry, I got it on here, would that help you? I'm sorry.
No, you can have both of them. I did it as one on what we're doing is allowing the permitted use of, if we grant it.
Yeah, not yet permitted use.
If this board agrees, then we grant the use or deny for either and or the storage and the overhead garage doors.
Yeah, they didn't separate them out, so,
Special exceptions there, it's like it's in there.
yeah, it's not a special exception, because we don't have criteria for a special exception in this ordinance.
Not linked on here,
No,
no.
these are my copies, they say it's not in that I know.
I got some work on here.
Do we have the variance coordinating,
I'm just gonna read it to you.
I have a letter from another authority that I'm able to, contact. Can I have that for the records?
You can't, yes, but that's, you should have, when we open it up for public comment, that's the time to bring up this stuff.
Sorry, I don't know the rules and regulations.
Okay, we'll take the letter. Give it to Susan.
so if we're gonna accept the letter, we should probably read it if it's
Yeah.
short, so. Because if we're gonna act on it.
Okay, this letter's from Garrison and Elaine Todd.
And then the next one that's in the envelope is from the sign.
There's another one in here. Okay, this is from Dwight Symes. Okay, I have to read them. So sit down and listen.
Do they give the address? Signs?
Symes is, it says 11 Main Street.
Yeah.
Dwight K. Symes.
Okay, that's this one. Yeah, it's just, it's abutted on two sides by this property.
Okay, be it known that my family has owned the abutting property at 11 Main Street for almost 90 years. My mother and father bought it from relatives in the late 1950s, and my siblings and I have jointly owned the property since my mother's, Doris Symes, passing. My sister, Janet Symes, my wife, Linda Symes, and I'm assuming I currently live there. Unfortunately, we are unable to attend the hearing. I will be in Lincoln, New Hampshire, while Jen is in New York City. My wife is recovering at home from knee surgery. A few weeks ago, I'm writing this letter on behalf of the co-owners and residents of 11 Main Street, since I am the eldest sibling and was the executor of the property when our mother passed away many years ago. We are against the waiver variance of the aforementioned terms in Article 104, Section 1044. Firstly, over the years, we have been subjected to greatly increased levels of noise and light pollution from adjacent and nearby property. Kingston Police Department diagonally across the street, Kingston Highway Department directly across the street, Route 111 Main Street intersection, Route 111, 125 intersection, and 9 Main Street. Should the self-storage unit be allowed, we expect greatly increased light pollution and incursion to our property on two sides. After looking at other self-storage unit facilities within Kingston and nearby areas within a 5-mile radius, we see significant light pollution and incursion to nearby properties and roadways occurring. Secondly, the increased traffic for the proposed new property usage at 9 Main Street, as in the previously mentioned properties above, will also increase noise levels during extended times throughout the day, night, and weekends. There are already 3 transformers and a telephone pole at the front of our house that create a constant humming noise, which were positioned for the Kingston Highway Department's electrical usage demands. The police department also has increased noise levels depending upon use of their backup generator or traffic. The former owner at 9 Main Street operated a garage for the bus company there, creating a lot of noise as well. We expect more noise from a regular garage door company who knows how much manufacturing or alteration of doors will occur, as well as from traffic to the self-storage units. Thirdly, since the previous 2 owners of business at 9 Main Street have incurred violations to the agreements and restrictions to the property use, there is little reason to believe that any restrictions against usages for another business would go unaddressed. The property was restricted as to how much of it could be used and developed for commercial use, where vehicles could park only on paved surfaces. Noise levels restrictions, lighting levels would be controlled, and some inside-only oil recovery equipment was left and remains outside. Many of these resulted in an unaddressed violation of use. Lastly, our house is virtually surrounded now by uses contrary to residential use and subjected to many sources of intrusion and disruption. We feel that we have been repeatedly impacted, much more so than almost any residence has been in the past 40 years, and we reject yet another variance to adjacent property. And it's signed sincerely, Douglas K. Symes. There's that one there. Okay, and this letter's from Garrison and Elaine Todd, and Mr. Todd spoke earlier, and Mrs. Todd presented this letter. Please be advised that we, Garrison and Elaine Todd, residents of 17 Main Street, Kingston, New Hampshire, object strongly to the proposed variance sought by Matthew Francis of Derry regarding the property which abuts 9 Main Street in Kingston. Mr. Francis is seeking a variance which will allow him to include a business operating as a garage door company and also the installation of self-storage units on 9 Main Street, Kingston. Our argument of which this should not be permitted includes the following. Quality of life will be interrupted as this type of business is not in the best interest of the neighborhood. According to the ordinance of the town of Kingston, Article 104, the property is not zoned for the proposed facility on this property. 2, the site plan of January 7, 2003 limits the use of commercial activity. 3, the request unduly violates the basic objectives of the zoning ordinance. 4, this type of business would alter the essential character of the neighborhood. 5, this type of business would threaten the public health, safety, and welfare as it would increase traffic at an already dangerous and busy intersection, Main Street and Route 111. Our street is a dead end and traffic is confined mostly to its residents. Granting this variance would greatly increase the flow of traffic, thereby creating more noise and interrupting our way of life as it now is. 6, it would alter the aesthetics of the neighborhood and may have an impact on the natural environment of the aquifer, i.e. potential for hazardous materials to be stored in the units. 7, the impact of potential light pollution in our backyards, in which light trespasses beyond the boundaries of the property would have a negative effect on our quality of life. 8, the business will also have a detrimental effect on the value of our property as it changes the character of the neighborhood. 9, according to the site plan dated January 7, 2003, the hours of operation are limited to Monday through Saturday, 7 to 5. The purpose of this was to limit the amount of traffic allowed. Hours of operation in the variance would have to be altered because of the nature of the self-storage company. These hours would become a detriment to the character of the neighborhood. We wish to have the planning board review the notes in the file regarding previous owners' violations, the town planner's concerns and complaints made by neighbors. We have hope that the board will recognize there are adequate storage facilities already in our town, and most importantly, take into consideration the abutting property owners' legitimate concerns and deny this request. And it's signed, regards, Carrison and Elaine Todd on 17 May. Gentlemen, any comments, questions?
Do you have the variance criteria on that? Because at the point, others we need to get. Okay.
Yep, we'll
Okay, we can discuss each one as we go in.
We can discuss each one and then vote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right, yeah.
So did you want to discuss them now and then we take a vote, Peter? I don't want to,
No, well, it's up to you. I mean, we can discuss and then vote, and then just, we need to have some kind of rationale, so, you know.
Okay,
And
well,
we'll put discussion about, you know, we've heard what they want to do, but we haven't discussed these criteria, so.
okay, well, let's discuss the criteria then. And then we'll take a vote to either grant it or not grant it. How's that sound? Gentlemen, it's up to you.
You and me.
Okay, number 1, the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because, and I'll read what the applicant said, both requested variances will have a minimal impact on congestion of butters and the environment. That's how it was presented to us. So the question is, will there be diminution in value of surrounding properties granting this variance? And I have to tell you, in the 20 plus years I've sat on the zoning board, I have yet to see an abutting property diminish in value from any decision made by this board. And you prove me wrong, and if you do, I'd like to know it, but I've never seen abutting property diminished in value in over 20 years. So,
Yeah, it's really a case of, given the fact that the business exists now, it's a commercial business that exists now, and whether it'll be an increase in use or an increase in noise or pollution or what, you know, light pollution included, that would cause that to happen. And yeah, I agree that if it goes in the way it is now and it's not expanded, which seems to be, would be difficult to do, there probably wouldn't be a diminution, with the exception of, and this is the problem, the self-storage. You know, this is why putting those two together, self-storage, I don't think you're going to be able to get away with short hours, you know, business hours on that. And that brings in traffic. Admittedly, not that many units compared to other self-storage sites, but it's a coming and going.
in corollary to that, they don't necessarily have to advertise the self-storage units, but they would advertise a place to store your boat and makes it a real easy and minimizes any traffic.
Yeah,
You can-
limited.
But that would be under the control of the owners. They could do that, they could control the traffic by what they allow to be stored in there and to control the hours to their normal
Access.
hours of operation.
Right, their business hours, something.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I'll have all our stuff in the building, so I don't want people there all hours, just like your house, I don't want people floating around or doing anything. I have those concerns too, I'm not.
But the second one, will granting this variance be of benefit to the public interest? See, I don't see it as deterring the interest of the public because there's so much around them already. And I think the bus company would have created more traffic, more hazardous waste, and more of a problem than a garage door company with limited storage.
Right, but we have to analyze this as a separate entity, not compare it to what
I understand that, so
because what was there.
oh, how else are you gonna compare it to the benefit of the public interest if you don't compare what was to what is, or would be? The third one is, will little enforcement of the zoning ordinance result in an unnecessary hardship?
And that's always a tough one because, given the limited uses you pointed out, of the existing building really doesn't fit into the permitted uses. So,
The chances of ever getting a dentist, a doctor.
no, I mean, I can go into that.
Well, and they would have way more traffic than we would.
And they
They'd
would
have
have more
people
traffic.
coming and going all
Yeah,
day.
no,
And that's, we had put that in our application, the impact it would have on the sale. So obviously the sale of this property is contingent upon, one of the things is contingent upon the decision tonight, but the owner of this property is gonna have a very hard time selling it.
Right, but the contingent sale, that won't be a
No, what I'm
record
saying
sale.
is the.
You do say the current owner would have difficulty selling the price. The current structure is not ideal for most of the allowed businesses.
Yeah, but the question you were asking, what was it again? The third point? Hardship. So it would do undue hardship on the current owner if he's not able to sell the property. That's where I was going with that,
Yes,
the hardship.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and 4, will substantial justice be done if this variance is granted? And will the use contemplated by the petitioner as a result of obtaining this variance be contrary to the spirit of the ordinance?
Can I just ask you, the part with the hours, where was that or how was that? Like
You
how
know,
That's just more or less, that's gonna be something that if you get this, when you take this site plan that you're gonna produce to the planning board, one of the things that they're gonna consider is the impact of your hours of operation on the neighborhood, which is why probably in your planning stages you wanna think about that part of the business.
But they allowed the bus company not to operate after 5, is that what it?
I
Right,
don't
they
know
had-
what the
it's-
restrictions were
I
there.
believe they will operate 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. But that was a different business. When you go before the plan, we won't be regulating hours here.
Okay, that's what I was.
Right, yeah, that's not our ability.
Our responsibility, if you will, is whether or not to permit you to pursue locating the overhead garage door company and some self-storage units on that property. If the board agrees to do that, then you're not done. You have to go to the planning board, you have to have a site plan, they're gonna wanna see what you're gonna do with the buildings, they wanna know what hours of operation, what your lighting is gonna look like, what your anticipated traffic flow is gonna look like. All the questions that the neighbors raised tonight will have to be addressed at the planning board. And they could say no, or they can limit you however way they decide to go, within reason, I mean.
Right, I mean, if you get permission for that, one of the things obviously we talked about was expansion, so you know, and that's also gonna be affected by the Aquifer Protection District because of the paved area, and you have a 15% limitation, and so you may not be able to add more parking, because you'd have to park on pavement, so,
And
those are all
there
things you can be considered.
right, and there is pavement already there, so if you
Right.
decided you wanted to have another area paved, you might have to take some of it. Get all those details will be lying at the planning board level.
Right. So,
Okay, gentlemen.
um,
So you want me to, I can read those 5 questions again, we can vote yes and no, and
and we have to build the contemplated use contrary to the spirit of the ordinance, was the one we had
right.
talked about. And that is the dicey one. Obviously, the spirit of the ordinance is one of those letter writers that I think the last one pointed out, and the penultimate one, is that these are small, unobtrusive businesses that are located with residential uses. And the one thing that's mitigating that is the fact that you have a large structure already there. And as you say, most of your work is off-site, so there's not, I heard the word manufacturing come up in one of the discussions, and you're not manufacturing any of the overhead doors, you're purchasing them and installing them off-site. So that's a big part of the decision that would be made here, is that you would not be allowed manufacturing, noise generating, that type of thing. So given that, I think that this kind of service, in my opinion, wouldn't be contrary, only because you're not coming in and putting that building up. So it would not be, it wouldn't be as intrusive as existing use, and you're not manufacturing, it's not industrial use. So.
And it says general service and repair shops,
Right.
non-automotive. Well,
Non-automotive, and
this is not automotive.
yeah, and they list a lot of small
Yeah.
services, but
And
this is off-site. That's why I'm saying,
That's right.
because the mitigating factor there is that instead of people bringing the bicycles in for repair, they're leaving the site to
Right.
the trucks will come in, deliver wholesale garage doors, and their trucks will go out with the doors and install them. So
Right. So,
And and from my perspective, this is gonna be less intrusive than the bus company was. I think there was a lot of oil and
Yeah.
transmission fluids and diesel fluids.
yeah, and I think that's
And that's
all
evidence in the property
the
folder.
property
of all
folder
the
does.
issues that were on that property.
right. So
and all the property at the end is not allowed commercial, limited commercial activity here.
right. Well, that's this site plan. So.
And so it's gonna still be limited to
That would
that
be-
same
that would be
footprint.
limited, yes, so, well, we already know some of the footprint, so,
Okay, let's go, boys and girls.
okay.
I think we're all set to vote. You want me to read each one and vote yes or no on each one?
We can read them, because we've already read them, right?
We've already read them,
So we
so
can
you
just-
can just vote on your sheets there, and it's for,
Or do you want to vote aloud?
it doesn't matter, because I'm gonna read out the results anyways.
Okay.
The petition for variance for Article 1044 for property located 9 Main Street, map R21, lot 10. Will there be a diminution in value for surrounding properties as a result of granting this variance? Will the granting of this variance be of benefit to the public interest? Will literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance result in an unnecessary hardship? Will substantial justice be done if this variance is granted? Will the use contemplated by the petitioner as a result of obtaining this variance be contrary to the spirit of the ordinance?
It's the 10th of November,
All day long. For a few more hours.
pancakes every Sunday, so. One thing about retirement.
Okay, number one, will there be a diminution in value? All five voted no, so that passes. Will granting this variance be a benefit to the public interest? There are 4 yeses, 1 no, but it still passes. Number 3, will little enforcement result in unnecessary hardship? It was unanimously yes, it would. Passes. Number 4, will substantial justice be done if granted? And all 5 passed. And then number 5, will the use contemplated by the petition result in obtaining this variance contrary to the spirit? And all 5 voted no, so all 5 variances, for all 5 criteria passed. So,
You need a motion?
I need a motion.
I move that we grant a variance to allow an overhead garage door company and
Self-storage.
24 unit self-storage at the property at 9 Marshall Road.
9
Sorry, 9 Main Street. 9 Main Street, with the understanding that no expansion.
No,
Yeah.
we're just granting the
No.
use of those 2
Use,
uses
yeah.
to become permitted. That's all we're doing. Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Variance is granted. Now, you have 30 days to wait in case someone wants to appeal it because they have new information that we didn't take into consideration that could happen. So that's a 30-day window for that to happen. I would strongly suggest trying to incorporate some of the concerns that the neighbors have expressed. I mean, you're from a small community, Dunbarton's like Kingston, very much like Kingston. And it'd be nice to be good neighbors and add to the benefit of the area, not detract from it in a way that I understand that the neighbors don't want to see happen. I get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it sounds like they've had some rough neighbors in the past. Or not.
We won't say that to the police department and the highway department.
No,
We're still there.
I meant the people that were in our property before.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay, wish you good luck. You're gonna go to but they said 30-day window. I'll send out a letter next week, officially notifying you that the variance was granted.
And then if nobody appeals within 30 days, then,
You move
To the
forward,
planning board.
go right to the planning board.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a letter from, we're not gonna have another hearing tonight. And we received a letter today from the Ahern's attorney, and I'll read that to you. We represent Ida and James Ahern applicants with regard to their zoning board of adjustment application pertaining to their property located at 2 3rd Street, Kingston, which is further identified as town tax map Route 4 lot 141, which application is scheduled to be read by the board tonight, 10 November 2021, at the Kingston Town Hall. Unfortunately, I am sick with an upper respiratory infection.
We have to move out.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna ask that you leave the hall, please. Remember that warrant. We need the acoustics in here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Peter. I was so busy reading it, I wasn't even listening.
Yeah, it just gets,
As a result of these circumstances, I respectfully request a continuance of the hearing to the Zoning Board of Adjustments' next regularly scheduled meeting, which I understand will be 7 p.m. on Thursday, December 9, 2021, at the Kingston Town Hall. If that is not the date, time, or place of the next hearing, we respectfully request that the board continue the hearing to a specific date, time, and place to avoid the requirement of noticing the hearing. Thank you so much for your time. Donahue, Tucker, and Chandela.
You need a motion to accept?
We have a motion to continue this hearing to the December 9th meeting.
So moved.
In a second by Chuck.
it's 7 p.m.
7:05 would be the exact time, because we need any minutes or whatever. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say no. If you were here for the second hearing, I won't be re-noticing you, but they will be coming forward on December 9th. It'll be the first hearing that night. Okay.
Giving away your money on the floor.
I also, what,
Take some other.
if you gentlemen want, I have a letter from Robert. This, her property had a previous attorney and the application was denied, and then they switched attorneys. So, Robert had a letter that you should read because it's important that you,
Be fully informed.
right, and I can't find my copies, it's not. I'll send a copy of it to you.
I didn't take your copy.
Let me know when you want to stop the recording.
No, we're not done yet, so we can't. But in it, Robert said that if they narrowed the house and moved it a foot back, they wouldn't need any variances. So it's going to be interesting to see how they present that accordingly. We'll let them do that in December and go from there. And the other thing that I wanted to make you aware of, last meeting we had an approval of the Kingston crossing for the fueling stations. And I had an abutter call me today saying that they're gonna challenge that decision because there's Southeast Land Trust has a conservation easement on that property that they should have been notified. I haven't received the letter requesting a rehearing, but what will happen, when I get that letter, I will notify the applicant that we have it, and then at December 9th meeting, we'll either decide that we didn't make an error, that they should have been notified, which means we have to hold the hearing again and re-notify the abutters, in which case that would be in January. So I'm just giving you a heads up, that will also be on the agenda. It won't be formal, I mean, I won't have it on the legal notice, but it's gonna be on the agenda, so that.
Is there an easement there?
I have no idea, and I don't know if it's one of the butters, and I was surprised they weren't notified. That is true, but if they are in a butter, or if a conservation easement requires that they be notified, then we need to rehear it.
No, I mean, of all that conversation that night, there was nothing about
Never was
that
raised.
as far as affecting the property of the site or, make some.
No, but you know what, that's why you have that 30-day window, because if some new information is raised,
Yeah.
then you have to give them the opportunity to address it.
Yeah.
And it may not change the outcome, or maybe it would, we have no way of knowing.
Right.
I will though, when I do my homework on this, I may ask that you change our application form to add on the abutter form a section that, if it's a conservation easement, they would be included in the butters notices. Automatically.
Should be any easement, the holder of any easement.
Right, and if you look at the website and what our authorization is, I think it is, it's not just a conservation
Right.
easement.
Yeah.
It has it in the little box here.
What does it say, Susie?
Includes the names and address of the following applicant, owner, holders of conservation, preservation, or
Oh, it
agricultural
does.
preservation restrictions, so it
It's
is
already
on.
in there, okay. Let's just check to make sure that's the case. I think so. I have not received the request for a rehearing yet, so.
No, there's
They
something-
have till Monday to get it in.
There's something like that, just a question, there's something like that, relevant to this or anything else, does it hold up the person from moving on?
Yes, absolutely does.
Yeah.
If they
may
can move
accept it.
on, but they move on at their own risk.
No, but they could at least have the plans going to the planning board or, that kind of.
They could. That's why you always tell them the 30 days. And
Yeah.
it's in the letter of notice of decision, that 30-day waiver, the 30-day waiting period is included in the notice of decision.
How long ago was Buddy on this, how long ago was it that Buddy was on this subject?
He was on in 89, 90, 91,
Plus 30 years.
30 years ago.
I remember you became a selectman, your punishment for your first year was to sit on a plane. So anyways, Buddy was there.
That is true.
I was in a meeting, had anything to do with that, was another object, subject like that. Memories had all his permits to open. And, Russman challenged at the last minute, he knew what he was doing, he was good, and he yanked all the permits away.
No kidding.
Yeah, and Buddy was not happy how the situation.
I'm sure he wasn't.
He was not happy at all.
I'm sure he wasn't.
And Buddy asked me, because now you got Rick Russman, who's an attorney, and he was doing it for Jimmy Lee, his brother-in-law. And I sat through that whole hearing, because I was there for another purpose, and he looks at me and says, "What do you think, Rich?" I don't know, buddy. I says, "Here you got a man that has two of the most low-life professions on the face of this planet. First he's an attorney, then he's a politician. And he's telling this man that he's supposed to sell ice cream, he can't make a living out of it." I said, "He's never heard of Round Top up in Damascus. He's never heard of Ben and Jerry's in Vermont." I says, "All these companies make a living at selling ice cream better than he does at being an attorney."
Okay, Richard.
Oh, you're right, Rich. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I think so.
You know those Northern Blazing Stars they were talking about at that, when we rented that, fuel station? Depot, whatever you want to call it. There was those Northern Blazing Stars that were rare.
Oh,
You know where those came from? Remember Connie used to plant a whole strip
yes, yeah,
for people to stop and pick flowers. He would plant a whole strip of flowers.
yeah, he did. It was used to be beautiful there.
Yeah, and where do you think those Northern Blazing Stars
Yeah,
came
I don't know. I don't know. But they're not the same as critters, though.
They were.
Not the same
Then they
as
went looking
critters.
for them, they're all gone, but people picked them.
All right, save December 9th, we're gonna party again. And, thank you, Susan. Not too bad tonight.
That's the property.
That's all right, no big deal.